This week, we're casting the lines from Liberty Marina and the Sail Away Catamaran fam to begin our journey south to Florida. We enjoyed an amazing downwind sail to Solomon's Island, but before parting on our journey south, we visited the Annapolis Maritime Museum to learn more about the history of the Chesapeake Bay and its role as the lifeblood of the ecosystem where Annapolis has developed. It was eye-opening and has made us even more aware of our impact on the environment and how important it is to tread lightly. I'm Kristen, this is Fabio, and this is our dog Yoda. We sold our home last year and moved aboard our Seawind 1600 catamaran Wanderlust. Over the past year, we've sailed the waters of South Florida, the Keys, and the Bahamas, shaking down our new boat. We're now setting off on our journey to harbors unknown, exploring the world and connecting with people and places through the local cuisine. Subscribe now to join our voyage. Annapolis, situated on the Chesapeake Bay at the mouth of the Severn River, 25 miles south of Baltimore and about 30 miles east of Washington, D.C. It has been the capital of Maryland since 1694 and was temporarily the U.S. national capital from 1783 to 84, where at the State House that still stands, George Washington resigned his commission as commander of the Continental Army. Home to prosperous merchants and lawmakers, including 4 signers of the Declaration of Independence, Annapolis grew primarily as a shipbuilding and commercial port. Annapolis changed slowly over time from a working man's commercial port to the recreational port it is today. We wanted to learn more about the connection between the Annapolis community and the Chesapeake Bay, so we paid a visit to the Annapolis Maritime Museum, where Hank Mortimer showed us the exhibits and shared his vast knowledge of the area. Annapolis is located in the 64,000 square mile Chesapeake Bay watershed, encompassing 6 states: Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New York. But what is a watershed? A watershed is a land area that channels rainfall and snowmelt to creeks, streams, and rivers, and eventually to outflow points such as reservoirs, bays, and the ocean.
The Appalachian Mountains over here that run north and south. When it rains, all the water on the eastern side of the mountains flows east. The headwaters of the Susquehanna River are in Cooperstown, New York. And the Susquehanna flows down here and into the Chesapeake Bay up near Havity Grace.
And if you throw a bottle cap in the water in Cooperstown, New York, a few days later you may find it in Annapolis.
So when the people got here, what did they do? They wanted to plant crops, so they had to cut down trees. They came by boat, they needed more boats. What did they do? They cut down more trees to make more boats. So it evolved over time. Nobody was really looking at the overall situations. About 100 years ago, the light bulb started to go on, or maybe more than 100 years ago, when people realized the oyster population was declining. The oyster population, they finally figured out, was a key resource in the bay that contributed to its health or contributed to its lack of health. 2 important things about the water: the clarity. 1 3-inch oyster will filter approximately 40 gallons of water a day. So if there are thousands and thousands and thousands of oysters, scientists estimated that when John Smith was here that the oysters could filter the entire Chesapeake Bay, 18 trillion gallons of water, every 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
And what sunlight does is it helps underwater grasses, SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation, to grow. The good thing about it is the SAV provides hiding spot for little critters and creatures that also live in the nooks and crannies of an oyster reef. The seagrass absorbs carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen. So It's another positive thing to make the water healthy. So sunlight can penetrate. In that tank over there, sunlight cannot penetrate. Today, that's what it looks like.
Wow.
1% of the remaining oysters.
Look at this.
It might take a lot more than a year. We fished out all but 1% of the oysters. We have 18 million people on the land. Everybody flushes the toilet, takes a shower, digs a hole to build a house, drives on the highway, you have all the cities and the population. And
Agriculture around
when it rains, it all goes into the bay. And phosphorus and sediment are the major polluting elements. Mankind has brought all of those to the Chesapeake Bay. The cages sort of represent the harvest of the oysters in the period shortly after the Civil War. There'd been good harvesting up until that point, but after the Civil War, there was great demand for a cheap, protein, healthy food that was there for the taking. As we went through the years, you see the oyster population decline. Last year, my understanding is they harvested about 300,000 bushels. And the year before that was really only about 150,000. One of the things the Chesapeake Bay Foundation did was it got an agreement with the 6 surrounding states in the watershed to improve the pollution situation that was going into the bay. They all made an agreement. It was pretty much of a non-binding agreement. They were going to reduce phosphorus, nitrogen, and erosion. Oyster farming then comes into play. Folks in New England are a few years ahead of us as far as raising oysters. The shells are now recycled. Up until about 70 years ago, they didn't know what to do with the shells. All these shells here, they should have been put back in the bay. Where the dredged oysters up on the bay, there's mud on the bottom. Oysters won't grow in mud, it has to have a hard surface. Today, what they do is they collect the used shells and put them in recycling bins, and eventually they make their way back out into the bay. Oyster farming is still a small percentage of the oyster production, but it will grow over time. And the beauty of it is that the farm-raised oysters are raised near the surface of the water rather than on the bottom. And on the bottom you have the silt and other chemicals and things that have come off the land that settles down there with them. Farm-raised oysters are near the top and are generally cleaner, less of a problem as far as disease or what have you. So the good news is progress is being made.
A huge thank you to the Annapolis Maritime Museum for allowing us to film, and to Hank Mortimer for sharing his time and vast knowledge. After we filmed this, the worst flooding in 2 decades plagued Annapolis and devastated the Annapolis Maritime Museum on Friday, October 29th. If you would like to donate to the museum's Flood Repair and Restoration Fund, we'll include a link in the description below so you may do so. The time had come for us to start our journey south towards Florida, so we untied the lines and pushed off the dock at Liberty Marina in Edgewater, Maryland. Our first stop was Solomon's Island, about 50 nautical miles south, but first we had to fuel up. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment down below, and be sure to subscribe for more sailing adventures.
I'm gonna go turn around, side to the dock, and you're gonna tie the skirt, okay?
We left Edgewater, Maryland on the South River, just kind of across from Annapolis today. We left this morning about 11 o'clock. We are starting our voyage back down to South Florida. We are planning to make a few stops along the way, and our first stop is actually today. We'll stop at Solomon's Island. It's about a 15 nautical mile sail, and we've got wind from behind us, really just kind of off our stern, and it's ranging anywhere from 16 knots true to, I saw gusts up to 28 knots, but so for apparent wind, we've got, 12 to 20 knots, and we're averaging kind of like 65-70% of the wind speed for our boat speed. So it's really super pleasant, sunny, white puffy clouds. I mean, we really couldn't ask for better weather. Tomorrow we're probably going to hop down to Norfolk or Hampton News, and then Friday we have to wait out a storm that's coming through. There's forecasted gusts up to 50 knots, so we want to be nice and protected. For now, we're just going to enjoy this beautiful sail.
The further we move on from all those yesterdays, happiness gets nearer. The light that we see closing in so fast ahead, it's hope, it's getting clearer. The more I think of all the tough times we survived, the more it makes me smile. If nothing's broken,
we got our new autopilot ram at the Annapolis Boat Show, and Fabio was able to install it. So we are using it on this trip, and it seems to be working. It's making some funny noises, so we've recorded it, and we're going to send it off to B&G just to make sure that everything is okie dokie. But we took everything out of the locker, so I figure I'd show you guys what's going on in here. As we made our way down the Chesapeake, we jibed back and forth across the bay.
Mm-hmm. Now we're gonna back that way, okay? Jibe, okay?
not anything or anyone will hold us back, no matter what the cost. And I know somewhere's a place where we can build our memories. Just hold on tight, it'll be alright. Show me the way. Show me a way to somewhere. Show me the way. Show me a way to somewhere. Show me the
Just a beautiful downwind sail.
Trying to squeeze it downwind.
Got quite the little setup going on here.
Doesn't really work very well, but we're past the can, you can start turning.
Okay. With the cliffs of Solomon's Island in sight, we stowed the sails and motored towards our anchorage under the magnificent sunset.
Show me what it's like to be circling among the clouds. Because without you by my side, I would be stuck here on the ground. You're lighting up the way, I can see the road ahead of me. I won't be stumbling in the dark. Your eyes are shining like the stars. I was down until you saved me, until you set me free.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Clear as day, and I just wanted to say